Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Jenny Chess, and today we will discuss about the study that I took in the university, which is chemical engineering. So I graduated in 2021, right, which was last year. Even though it's 2021, it's not really like late in 2021. It's more like very early 2021. Just as the year changes, um another batch of people graduating, right? And that's me basically. So yeah. um but the thing is that a lot of people kind of ask me about what do I study there, like what differs chemical engineering from other engineering, like for instance electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, or civil engineering or stuff like that, right? So uh, you know what makes it different from the others, right? So yeah, I guess we can start with the general term of engineering itself. Engineering means you build something, right? You basically design something, right? And in this case, about chemical, right? So, what does it mean? Well, every process that starts from the beginning until the end, it has lots of process, right? And some of the process has things to do with chemical reaction and stuff like that, right? That's why this chemical engineering will come handy in this process, right? So, I guess we can start with what's the study about? Well, basically, if you have something, material, anything, right, and then you basically did something, or you basically do something to that material, through a lot of process, and then it becomes product at the end, right? So yeah, this is basically what chemical engineering is about. um, it's about changing something into something else that is more valuable, right? Something more valuable, something more beneficial, something that people will always use, right? No matter the case, because one of the base that hold this chemical engineering is also demand from people, right? There won't be any kind of industrial if there is no demand for it, basically. And that's like the very first chapter when you're determining or designing your plant, basically. There will always question like, who will buy the product, right? What will be the target? Where will you sell it? And what's the price, right? And stuff like that. And yeah, so again, this is very quite simple. It's about changing material into product. Now, um if you think about it, it's basically anything, right? It's like, well, everything always has something to do with raw material into product, whatever it is, right? And this is why I think most people, you know, don't realize about what chemical engineering is about. It's not always has to be chemical reaction. Um, it's anything really. We basically has, you know, study, or we have the understanding, or we have the knowledge how to change something into something else. Um, in this case, it's not always about plant. Like, basically, plant is just upsized, business or industry, right? Um, it becomes from your homemade, or your homemade stuff, or for instance like food, or anything else, right? drink or whatever product that you have that you make by yourself at home. It's basically got upsized or upscaled into a plant size, right? Into a big industrial, basically. The reason why is because again the demand is very high for that specific product, and then uh, you know it is possible to to make that product into large batches, like as in large process at once, um, because it's kind of more about efficiency, right? If you can make something at the large number without without having too much people around it, or without having you don't need to always rely on human directly having to take care of it, right? You can use machinery basically to upsize or upgrade those numbers, right? And yeah, so there's that. But also, um you know when we're talking about the chemical process, really it's not always about chemical process. Like, for instance, if you want to ferment milk into yogurt, then there is a bioprocess, right, in it. So it doesn't always have to be chemical reaction, it can also be bioprocess. um you know when those bacteria, or what is it called again, bacteria, right, um will basically eat, or yeah, basically will eat um substance inside the milk, right? And then it turns that into something else, right? Which and as a result it become yogurt, right? Um, and yeah, it doesn't always have to be chemical reaction or process. Um, and then if you're familiar with a what is it called, the um oil and gas um oil and gas industry, there's not really chemical reaction there, right? Like, you got crude oil from the earth, from the oil reservoir down the earth, right? You bring it up, and then uh what will you do with that, right? um well, it's kind of simple, but also not simple. You just basically um those crude oil will just be put into um fractionation column, I would say, or distillation tower, basically. But since there's multiple fraction of elements or compounds, or components, there be lots of layers, right? Which is That's why fractionation column, because lots of fraction, right? Yeah, and you know maybe you got the upper product, and then you need to fractionate again, or uh distill again, right? So you have more product from upward and then down and stuff like that, right? And yeah, and all of this is not chemical process, right? It's just separation, right? Separating the material from other material, so that the separation product becomes a product, main product, and then anything else become main product, basically, right? Since this is oil, um anything can be used, right? From the simple, the most simple component, until the heavy component at the bottom, all of them is usable for something, right? And the thing is that none of this requires chemical process, right? It's just separation. Although it might need some chemical to, to more like, what is it called, reforming, um preconditioning. What is that? um Basically, when you get raw material, you want stuff to get conditioned, right? Like, for instance, the heat or the pressure. And then there's also like, do you want it with other material as well, right? Like, for instance, do you mix it with any other liquid, like, for instance, um solvent, or just include oxygen in it, and stuff like that, right? There's lots of ways, lots of various ways in preconditioned. And yeah, so this whole process may or may not use chemical process, right? But mostly no, because when we do the fraction, we separate these fractions. It's just pure material, right, at the end. And it doesn't require chemical process. It's just more like physical process, since it's just separation, right, based on their boiling point, right? And yeah, so again, like, that's the whole you know what people may not may just glance over or look over, when it doesn't always have to be chemical process, right? um yeah, like I said, it's something into something else. The process is whatever, and it may or may not be chemical process, even though most of it is, of course, chemical process. But it doesn't have to be, and that's what people always look over. And then, in my university, um myself in my university, actually, we got lots of what is it, like, subdivision. I don't know what this is called. Like, there's some optional subject, right? We have programming, so that it has stuff to do with computer. Programming. You make codes. You make script, and then you run it, like, in some kind of simulation, to basically get, like, um to calculate the process that you need in the chemical engineering process, right? Like, for instance, you want stuff to be as high purity as possible, right? So how big your machine will be, right? What will be the height or the diameter and stuff like that, right? And you can find that by running simulation, for instance. Like, since chemical process occurs every increment, like, every increment, right? So at what point of height where the process is good enough that it gives high purity of product already, or um you know where the reaction has done majority, right? And yeah, there's that about the programming. And then there's also another subject, which is bioprocess. So again, bioprocess, it's simple. It's about biological process, right? It uh, usually run with bacteria, and this is quite popular in my university, at least, because you got the chance to go into lab research, and then just, it's kind of fun to to learn about biological, not only bacteria. It's more like plant based also, like, for instance, algae. um the algae, right? And then you reacted with, like, for instance, oxygen and then stuff like that, right? And then it will produce something else, like, for instance, right? That also can be inside bioprocess, since it's biological process, right? It can be plant-based or animal-based, and yeah. And there will be a lot of time that you will need to be in the lab doing lab research and stuff like that. And then there's also energy. Energy subject. This is like the most popular. Since this is quite generic. There's we're talking about energy, right? And it's renewable energy and then non-renewable energy also, right? So that's like lots of them. Um, like, for instance, we're talking about oil and gas, like I just said earlier, right? And yeah, that's just basically energy. So energy in basic is when your product is energy basically. Like I said, you have raw material and then process and then product, right? And in this case the product is energy. So, like, for instance, fuel, right? Gasoline and stuff like that, and then biofuel, for instance, and stuff like that, right? And then the next is, I think it's called polymer, but I'm not really sure about this one. I think this is called polymer. I forgot, honestly. I'm sorry if I was wrong. Whoever, if some way in the future my friends watch this or listen to this, and I name it wrong, so I'm sorry in advance. But yeah, so this one I'm not really familiar with this. So it's basically about polymer, right? So anything about polymer, like plastic basically, right? You have those hydrocarbon, and then you react it with, like, I don't know, let's say chlorine or something like that, that will add chloride into the chain, and then at the end process you do polymerization, right? uh, and it becomes polymer basically. uh, Plastic, right? It's anything about plastic, really. um, yeah, I'm not really too familiar with that because I don't really understand how polymerization works, honestly. I mean, I know that it starts with it's basically chain reaction, right? It's like, when I make an analogy of it, I always think about the what is it called, um radioactive, what is it called, the what is it called, the yeah, the radioactive reaction, basically, when you have uranium, and then it starts shooting everywhere, right? It starts halving its uh atom. I don't know what it's halved and turn into something else, right? So this is basically it. If I can make analogy about polymerization, so it starts with those hydrocarbon. You it gets shot by radical element or stuff, and then it breaks the chain, and then at the same time it's also because it's broken, then it will have the tendency to hold with other component, right? Which is another hydrocarbon, right? And then it start combining, since those two are broken, so it becomes one. Basically, it ties together, and then in the process it also shoots another, it triggers another polymerization process to something else, right? So it's like chain reaction basically, but I don't know the details about that. And then the last one is about um how do I it's about minerals, right? So this one it's you know it's literally about mineral. It's about the rocks. Yeah, apparently in chemical engineering we study about rocks too, and this one is the one that I took. So yeah, I have some knowledge about how to process ores or how to do mining in general, right? And yeah, so what about mineral then? Basically you have earth, right? And then there's lots of layers down the earth, right? The earth, right? Like for instance, you want gold. But the thing is that gold doesn't just come in one big rock, big pile of rock that is pure gold. No, it doesn't work like that. Even though you can find gold bits in smaller, very, very smaller size, which is pure gold, that is possible actually. But if we're talking about mining deep down, there's no such thing like very large, pure gold rock, right? There's no such thing. What what exists is rocks that has lots of um, gold concentration in it, right? And after we took the rock up to the surface, and then we start doing stuff to it, right? Like for instance, we break down those big rock into smaller pieces, um using machinery and stuff, of course. And then there, even with that small pieces, the amount of code is scattered and it can just get taken out easily, right? And then so you have to use chemical process, right? You need to strip or take you need to react that specific code with something else can uh that can solve gold elements, right? And then it turn into liquid form, and then you can do separation with it, basically, right? And the residue of the ore or the rock will not be solved inside that liquid, right? So it won't mix with the gold that has already been solved. By solved, I mean um what is soft, right? It's soft, right? When you have um solid inside liquid, it kind of melt in and blend in. Yeah, that's soft, right? And yeah, and then you do separation to get that pure gold, right? And then you have it, that's gold basically. And then you maybe you heat it so that the small bits of gold get melted and then become one, right? Because it says the same thing, right? So it becomes a a, a cube of gold basically, right? And then it got um you know conditioned again after that. But yeah, that's mineral, and that's what I took. The reason I took it is because well, um you see, in my university there's like five of these optional subject, right? And you know there's like more than 100 of us, and then we need to take one of these five options, right? But the thing is that um these five must have people in it, right? We cannot just have one subject that has zero students. That won't happen, right? So you want it or you don't want it, some people must enter this subject, so that it's the amount of person in each subject is equal, right? So we have like distribution basically. Some people are learning about programming, some people learning about energy, bioprocess, polymer, and ores, minerals, right? And yeah, and when I chose people already took energy because it's the most popular, right? There's already 30 plus people, or even 50, I don't know. And then there's also the bioprocess, and then there's also the polymer, and then there's so it comes out only two options for me: programming or mineral, right? But the thing about programming, it's like very difficult. This one is for the gods, basically, the nerds, my friends that are very very smart. Um, Not only they have to know the process, they also have to learn about programming, right? That's basically you took another you took computer science inside chemical engineering study, which is actually very very difficult. um there's programming subject that has to be taken, and whenever I touch codes, I just don't understand, um like I understand what I want to do with the codes. I understand the algorithm, but I just don't understand the structure, right? The structure about of the codes, basically the script, because it's too confulated. What's that? It's too complicated, right? And yeah, I just don't understand that at all. Even though I understand what I want to do, but it's difficult to translate it into codes, right? And yeah, so then I only have mineral, right? So I take it. So I took it, and honestly, I don't regret it at all. It's quite fun. It's new. It's definitely new information for me, and um, it's about mining, right? And there is this game called Minecraft. So yeah, whenever I play Minecraft and then I go mining, then yeah, I understand the reference. Like, oh, there's coal, oh, there's iron. Deep down we can get diamonds, right? And then also gold. Gold is everywhere. If if you find long enough, and it always comes when you didn't expect it to come, right? To appear. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, I guess that's really the whole journey of mine doing chemical engineering. It's actually quite fun. It's There's a lot of study that when you think about it, it's not always about chemical engineering process which has industrial scale. You can scale it down, basically. And doing so, you also basically learn business, right? You learn how to start business, how to how the process of that business works, and then you have the product, right? And then you have something else, and then when you're doing that, there's also some stuff else, right? Like for instance, you want the utility, you want the energy, you want there is like residual material that you don't need. You have raw materials of your choice, and then you have product of your choice with process of your choice, right? And then there's also like you consider about the money or the economy of that, because again another thing that caused this whole thing to exist is because it's profitable, right? um, and the profit is worth of the process of or the work, right? And yeah, there's the economy where you can calculate the money, or the cost and the sales, right? So that you get profit. And then there's also like the engineering aspect. Like for instance, you want stuff to have certain certain reaction needs certain amount of product, I mean material, right? Like for instance, when you bake a cake, you want the flour at constant you have this at its on amount, right? It has been predetermined, right? The amount of eggs and then sugar and stuff like that also, right? And that's the chemical engineering aspect also, because it's reaction, right? Basically, or if you don't use any reaction at all, right? And it's just to the study is very general, very generic, that you can think of anything. Basically, you own the whole knowledge, I would say. Not in a weird way, or in 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 godly way, no. But it's just that it's very applicable when you study about this stuff. You can think about something, and and even other people that took other subject and to business, and when you study chemical engineering, you can actually come and help them, because you know what's the problem, right? And then that's the engineering part also, when you found something, something in the way or problem, right? And then you solve it. That's how engineering works also, right? You basically solve any type of problem, right? In any type of situation, and then you try to solve this, right? And yeah, that's that. Yeah, I think that's all about chemical engineering. Honestly, maybe I have something else that I forgot to mention, then I will explain again maybe in the future. Not really in this type of stuff, more like bits of bits, just sharing in general when I do other videos. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been my journey about studying in chemical engineering. I graduated, yes, it took me 5 years, where mostly it only took 4 years. I took five, because of the pandemic and stuff like that, that blocked in the way, and that became something difficult for me, right? And yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourself, take care of others, take care of each other, eat healthy, drink healthy, and I will see you again tomorrow, and goodbye.